Welcome to the Keeping IT Real podcast. This podcast features honest and transparent conversations about what it takes to manage corporate technology and expenses today. Each episode, listen to true and personal stories from IT professionals who are working hard to make sure their business stays connected and competitive. I'm your host, Jethro Castillo, and let's meet our next guest. Today, I am joined by Gavin Hupp, a VP of Technology. Gavin is a seasoned technology executive with a passion for innovation, collaboration, and fostering inclusive environments that empower teams to thrive. Gavin, thanks for being on the podcast.
Jethro, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I've seen some of your podcasts. You've got some great guests. You asked some really great questions, and I'm excited to just have this conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, and we'll see if the questions are great, but the first question will be kind of the classic one, right? Kind of tell the story the way you want to tell your story. How did you get started in the world of IT, and kind of what fell into your lap, and how did you end up where you ended up now?
Yeah, well, it definitely wasn't a linear story or a traditional story, or one that I would have predicted back in the day. So I originally started my college career, so to say, in clinical exercise physiology.
Okay.
Believe it or not. So I was very passionate about how the body works and how to do, improve yourself physically. So it's the motor learning and chemistry and anatomy, physiology. So worked out a lot, did a lot of sports. While I was in college, though, I had a pretty bad concussion and I dropped out and moved across the country. I was in Massachusetts, and I moved across the country to Arizona, where I had like $100 to my name and just kind of started from scratch, away from the snow and away from the cold weather. And I had some kind of sales jobs, and I ran a GNC store for a bit. Then I finished my bachelor's degree in marketing, and my marketing professor, she was amazing. She was really great, but she recommended, she's like, Gavin, you're good at marketing. You understand this stuff. You should do something that you're not good at yet and get better at it. Okay. So I went to study finance and technology as I was getting my MBA. So I had those elective classes, and I gravitated towards technology a bit. As I was going to school, though, I was going to school at night and I was working during the day. I started my own business, my own print-on-demand e-commerce business. I thought they were funny, but they weren't that funny, but almost funny ideas. And so I created my company called Almost Funny Media, where I would design these T-shirts, mugs. I've got a few still, where they're almost funny designs, and I would slap them on, shirts and mugs, and I would sell them online. And I taught myself a little bit of web development, analytics, digital marketing, the full stack, the full end-to-end of an idea to putting stuff out there, to selling, to doing payments, that whole piece. And, I had friends and family members come up to me and say, hey, can you help me, launch, I've got this idea for a product. Can you launch this for me? Or a promotional item at a local business. So then I would do that. And I started growing it. And then eventually they'd come to me and say, hey, how, did you start your business? And I want to start my own business. Can you help me? I said, of course, if you pay me, I will help you, and I'll set it up for you. And so then that started into consulting. Really started on the digital marketing and e-commerce side of things. But then as I worked with different companies and built my network out, I started working with larger and more interesting companies. One was a ketamine infusion clinic. So it was one of the first of its kind. And it was launched in Scottsdale, Arizona. And they needed help kind of managing the clinic and managing the growth. They did all the right things the right way. They had, anesthesiologists and medical directors, and this was, and psychologists, and kind of working towards, improving treatment-resistant depression. but they didn't have a patient intake process. They didn't have communication tools. They didn't have a really great way of capturing data and doing analysis on it. And so I helped build out an expert system and a business intelligence platform to help them do that analysis and help them grow their organization. So that was really kind of taught me a lot about innovation and how to be scrappy, but also to deliver solutions that really help. Then I kind of transitioned into a role at Super Shuttle, which many of you may know them. They're not in business anymore, at least not the capacity that they were, but they kind of pioneered the shared ride industry. So they were started in the late 80s. It was a VW van. It was a blue van with a white wing on the side. It was needle lift. It was at 50 plus airports. And they'd pick up a bunch of people and drop them off on a route. And it was a low cost way of getting to and from airports. And they did really well for decades. But they brought me on board to help with their kind of digital marketing and it really turned their digital guest experience. And there's a little thing called Uber Taxi that started chipping away at some of their key markets. And again, I learned a lot of lessons, made a lot of great friends and great relationships. But we, built out an on-demand booking application. We improved the entire digital experience, but the business model itself really couldn't withstand the onslaught of the new ride businesses that were coming up. But really spent a lot of time on the MarTech, e-commerce, and analytics side. And then at the time, my wife and I, we were married, and we've got 2 kids. And her family's in Ohio, and mine's in New England area. So we wanted to move back to the East Coast. And I started looking for jobs. We like the warm weather. Didn't want to be too cold. So we started looking for jobs in the Carolinas. And Denny's, the restaurant chain, the franchisee of Denny's Corporation, was looking for kind of a non-traditional marketing position. And they kind of grouped together gift cards, a loyalty program, AARP, which is the 55 and up membership, all these different kind of concepts. And my background, again, had just been in, really kind of delivering digital guest experiences and technology. So I brought forward the idea to launch Denny's On Demand, which was online ordering, third-party delivery, a CRM and marketing automation platform. And that requires a lot of integration in the existing infrastructure, the existing technology, but also we brought in new technology and new folks to help implement. And I had a phenomenal team, great folks to work with, both internally and also externally, to help make that come to life. And that kind of paved the way for helping to innovate and modernize and improve a lot of the areas that were a little bit farther behind when I was at Denny's. And we had a new chief information officer who joined, who also brought a great perspective and great strategy, and brought a number of folks into the organization that were great. And so we built out this awesome team. We're able to, my responsibility was over the business relationship management and strategy, design and development for our marketing and operations technologies, which was fun and exciting. And it was never a dull moment. We accomplished so much in such a short period of time. And there were some challenges at being a franchise organization and working with franchisees, but they were typically really, really great. It just added another layer of communication that you had to be really cognizant and empathetic towards, because they're trying to run their business and not necessarily buy all the latest and greatest technology. So it taught me a lot about technology management and strategic alignment. So that's kind of how I started really getting into technology overall, from kind of business and marketing and digital. And then I like to roll my sleeves up and get involved in the details, and try to do what I can do. Uh, and obviously I can't do everything at all times, but uh, great at trying to find the right people and great people to come in and help out. And it's kind of how I got started. Now, there's a little bit more to that story, but I'll pause there because I've been talking for 10 minutes straight.
There's an irony to your story of starting in physiology and focusing on medicine, and then it's a concussion that moves you from studying the body and studying medicine right into one. You moved across the country. You went from cold in winter to warm and sunny, and then you went from, I guess, physiology and science and medicine into marketing and finance, and then eventually tech. And so it's a fun. Fun is a weird word, but an interesting sort of pivot in the ironic sense, if you will.
You know what, though? I think it's because I'd studied the brain, the human body enough to know, like, this is not good for the long-term health of myself. And I should cut this out. I'm not that good at football. Like, I was athletic. I think I liked working out. I liked being part of the team and, and playing, but I'm like, this is not a career path. This is not something that's long-term sustainable. I should cut this nonsense out now, which I did.
You had mentioned, right, you've been all over the place, and you did start with marketing first, and then marketing and tech, and then it eventually became a lot of tech. And I truly believe that now we're at an age where tech is no longer just how do we coin this? The order taker that just says, okay, this is what the business wants, we're going to do it. Nor is it just a cost center. It actually drives the success of a business. And I know that you're in the entertainment industry, and this is probably the industry where it's more pertinent than ever that tech really does directly impact how consumers enjoy sort of the experience. And so I kind of wanted to hear it from you as someone who's in marketing, which is very, very people focused, and then somebody that's in tech, which historically was very tech focused. What is it like to be in that environment where you'll notice that tech is not just, one of my previous guests said this, a soda and chips guy in the basement, but somebody who is also asked to almost market and pitch and be like, hey, I want to see it at the table. This is how I think tech could impact our business. What is that like from your perspective? I think you could probably speak on this in a different way, especially coming from a marketing background. What is it like to combine the two?
Sure. Yeah. It's, it has been a journey and an evolution for sure. It's this concept of, it starts at the top where you have to have good, I don't want to say alignment. I learned this actually through, I'll name drop here, the Business Relationship Management Institute, the BRMI, where it is a set of practices, and it's a framework for ensuring that technology is seen as a strategic partner. And some people say, well, you need to have your business strategy and your technology strategy aligned. Well, that means that they're kind of going in the same direction, and that's good. It's better than this. But in reality, you really need your business and technology strategy to be converged, right? They need to be one and the same. And so the organizations that do that better, that don't think of technology as just a cost center or as the guys in the basement, tend to do the best. It's that operating model between business and technology. And really, it's kind of a product management mindset where you've got your the feasibility, the usability, the desirability of your solutions all together, and regardless of your function or what you're supposed to do, you're all working together. You're all trying to make great products and great things happen. The closer you get, the better off you are with the multifunctional areas. So the other part is consumer preferences is not even strong enough. Consumers demand to have good digital experiences. It's just it's table stakes. It's been table stakes for a long time. And it's just something that is super important, and leaving the technology as kind of an afterthought is always going to be a problem. I think one thing that we're kind of looking at more and more, especially, and I'm probably going to bring this up, with AI, is that, on one hand, it's, you've got your business goals, your business initiatives, and you want to try to find the right technology. And maybe you're good at that, or you've got, tight cohesion, collaboration on the business and technology side. But then data had been kind of an afterthought in a lot of organizations. And as more and more organizations are exploring and proof of concepting or implementing AI, they're identifying that, actually data also needs to be up at the same level as business technology and data. That data really needs to be the first-class citizen, and maybe even more important than the actual technology that you're using. And so through the last, 3 or 4 years, I've really had a shift in my mindset and the way that I operate as well, which I've focused a lot more on data more recently, and trying to elevate data as an incredibly valuable and important asset. Things that we need to be thinking of at the beginning and at the end and all the way in between. Data is super important.
And I think this is a really beautiful way to kind of talk about why tech should be converged into business strategy in general. Why is tech so necessary? And you've kind of just like simplified it and been like, well, data. We need to know what everything is to be able to know what to do next. And so that is a really cool, I would say, beautiful way to kind of describe why tech is so necessary for business success. Obviously, there's so many other things that it does.
Sure.
But data itself, right? For sure.
It moves data, right? It takes an input, it does something with it, and it creates an output. And so that you can automate manual tasks. It can create business rules or business logic that allows you to transform an idea into a tangible solution, and it's fueled by data. And so you need to be able to capture the right data, store it in a way that is useful, model it in a way that can be gleaned for insights. And then the most important part, though, is then taking an action that either improves your guest experience, increases revenue, decrease costs. If you're not taking an action, then that's a pretty dashboard, and that's cool. But there needs to be some action.
If all you have is data, and you don't analyze the data, but then you do analyze the data, but then you don't do anything with the data, then you are just doing nothing, right? You're just staring at numbers. And so I guess the question for you is kind of like, and this is so vague, and it probably makes more sense to go into examples. So if you want to go into example, you can. Like, how do you turn data into action? Like, what do we look at to be able to go, okay, this is what we're taking in. This is how we're then going to use that to shape into ways to improve the business moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give an example. So I'll kind of go back to my career journey and story, and then I'll give you some
100%.
examples of how we did that. So while I was at Denny's, again, great team, wonderful people, but I got an opportunity to go work for PetSmart back in Arizona. So I kind of zigzagged across the country.
Yeah.
But they were, this was pre-pandemic. They were looking for ways to do almost as you described. So at the time, PetSmart was very line of business oriented. So you had cat business, dog business, specialty business. And they were really wanted to become more of a customer-centric organization. And they collected a bunch of information on their customers, did the loyalty program, and through their other lines of business as well, with like hotel and pet hotels and pet services, and obviously the retail side. But they needed someone to help become more of a customer-centric organization, to help drive better decisions and have a bigger impact on the business overall. And so part of that was, they had a lot of disparate technologies that weren't very well integrated. There's some redundancy and some overlap, and they didn't have that full 360-degree view of their customer. And some of the technology that they had in place had been there for a very long time, and it was kind of reaching its performance cap, so to say. And so a big portion of it was one, just aligning with the business leaders. First, like, what problems are you trying to solve? What, if you had X data in this way, what would you do differently? And so it was really, you start with the business problem and the business capabilities that you want and that you need to be able to do. And so then it's, we've got to gather the data, and we've got to centralize it. We've got to make it available using the right technology to get the right data to the right people at the right time, and layer in additional capabilities that our data science team at the time would use, or our CRM team or loyalty team would use. And we had some really, really great folks on the team that were able to really help kind of pull that out and turn those business problems into distinct pieces of data that could be used to help solve those problems. The right tools to then go analyze and explore the data from an analytics perspective, and then the right automation tools to then go make those decisions and take those actions at scale. So we would do stratified test and control. Again, this is the business team, and the data science team had come up with kind of their again the business problem and the data measurement protocols. But teams that I would work with would actually build out the solutions to say, all right, if you want to run personalization at scale and you want to have an automated stratified test and control process, here are the things that we're going to build out. And here's how you're going to create your dynamic content. And here's the integration path that we're going to go and have, again, make sure that the right data is sent to the right tool at the right time to then go execute, and then bring all of that information back. So that way they can be analyzed, and you can look at it, longitudinally. You can look at your test and control. You can look at your holdouts, doing all of that and just thinking about the business problem, how you're going to measure it in the beginning, and then all of those pieces in the middle have to, align both towards the solving the problem, measuring the problem, and taking action against the problem.
As much as we talk about tech on this podcast, and as much as it's all IT related and tech related, it always comes back to a business problem. And the simplest way and even better, it comes back to a people problem, right? How do we make relationships with people better? How do we make interactions with people better? How do we make transactions between people better? How do we make people's lives better? That's the business problem, right? Because if we talk about business problems, we're talking about how do we make more money? But how we make more money, if we look at even deeper, is how do we provide more impact to the people that we are trying to help?
And that was for me, 5 years ago that we did when I was at PetSmart. So since then, I've been at United Parks and Resorts, so which is SeaWorld Entertainment, which we've got a lot of really fun and interesting things that I can dig into it as well. But yeah, it's data to me, and solving the business problem, but again, managing relationships. And really that's kind of what good data management is managing the relationship between the things that you care about. I think I kind of stole a quote from Scott Taylor, who's the data whisperer, who's a good friend of mine, and he's just a great guy. He's got this book called Telling Your Data Story. And it's been really, really helpful, but he kind of calls it out as, you're managing the relationship between the things that you care about. That's your customers, your products, your places. And the better data you have, the cleaner, more accurate data you have, the better you can understand and manage the relationships between those things. And I've taken that to heart.
Well, you brought up that, and your life journey is so interesting, and your career path is so interesting. You've worked for so many different companies, but I really love the way you tell stories and talk about projects. And you can talk about the company you currently work for, just working in SeaWorld and all of the parks related to that, or just anything in your past. But if you could, like any other sort of project that you would, success or failure, what you learned from it, just I would love to hear from you, just things that really projects that really made an impact on your life for better or for worse?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thing that really set I think my path was Denny's on Demand. And I don't want to go too far back and like harp on the good old days, but it was really a massive program that a handful of really passionate people were able to take this kind of idea and take this initiative and launch it from start to finish. So, when I first joined, I'd kind of told the leadership team at the time, I was like, look, there is nothing that I would want more than to be able to press a button and have pancakes delivered to me at midnight. I'm like, okay, so we got to go do that. And and at the time it was really just Grubhub was kind of the big delivery partner, and family restaurants weren't really doing online ordering or delivery at the time. But in order to kind of sell in that program, franchisees had to agree to it, and there was there was some investment that they had to make. And at the time, it wasn't really that popular. And someone would be like, "Why would ordering this Denny's online? Like that's crazy. Like you smoking something." Oh, gosh.
Maybe they were.
Well, we're open late night, so but
exactly,
no,
exactly.
it was it was from the top down, really a all hands on deck program where the marketing team did phenomenal research and consumer insights. They invented new packaging for to-go orders. We integrated it into the kitchen video systems and point of sale systems. We had to install hardware at hundreds of locations. We had people on site. We didn't have a great way of selling into franchisees, because once you're a franchisee, you've got your franchise agreement. But this required me to put on like my B2B salesman hat and go to franchise groups and kind of talk about the benefit of it. And so we created these sprints. Say, okay, in these 2 weeks, these are the people that we're going to reach out to. We're going to have webinars. We're going to do video calls. We're gonna send them out an agreement. So basically, I had to build a CRM to help manage the relationship with franchisees to try to sell this in and to get this thing going. And it turned into a successful program that laid a good foundation for years later when COVID hit. Online ordering and curbside was like the big thing, but they had already had a very big head start. So it was cool, like, working with operations and making sure that we had the right flow inside the restaurants. They had to create a new labor category of people to help make sure they're managing online orders properly. Working with startups. So Postmates at the time, I don't know if people know this, but it was just a startup in San Francisco. And how they would work is that you would place the order in the app, and then someone would call the restaurant just to kind of get things moving in a scrappy way. So, I met with their team and we put out the tablets. We were one of the early folks to do that. So I learned a ton about massive collaboration and grit. That it really there was challenges. There was some really, really challenging, difficult times. But we had a great team, and we were all kind of saw the vision and saw what the goal was. And the marketing team also had amazing advertising lined up. So like, oh shoot, we've really got to hit this. And we got to do it right. And it was just a really, really cool experience.
I'm a little suspicious of you now. I think you might be a time traveler. How did you do this on demand delivery before it all blew up? You know what I mean? It's like you knew. It's like you knew this is the way it was gonna go.
I was at Super Shuttle right before, so I
was
interviewing at Denny's, and we had just got done doing our, the business unit was actually called TransDev On Demand. And so that was Super Shuttle, ExecuCar, Z-Trip. And so I think the original time I pitched it, I was like, it should be Pancakes on Demand. But they were like, actually, no, it should be Denny's on Demand.
Yeah.
So just being, the other thing is I studied a lot, but I studied very deeply innovation and disruptive innovation. And I was studying how Uber was kind of just taking our business, and just the consumer demand for control, for convenience, for real time something. I don't want to have to wait. I don't have to go drive, and I don't have to pick it up. I don't have to call and deal with it. I want technology to help enable this. And so I just kind of took that concept from transportation,
Cool.
and the leadership team at Denny's understood, and they believed in that too, and knew that was something that they wouldn't regret. We did go a little far though with the technology. We partnered with a company called Conversable, which helped us do ordering through Alexa. You could order through Twitter. And Facebook Messenger when it kind of first launched. I think we were a little early, but it was worth it for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
The first question is, do you want to do a part 2? Because I feel like we have so much more. We have so much.
Sure.
There's so much more to talk about, and I'm like, we could do this forever. So if you're down to do a part 2 down the line or a part 3, I would love that 100%.
Let's set it up.
Thank you. Awesome. Looking back in your career, looking forward, what are some of the most important lessons, stories, experiences that you've kind of learned or sort of integrated over your career that you'd like to kind of impart?
Yeah, there's a few things. So, it's really important. It was really important for me to kind of establish my personal pillars of what I believe in, and how I want to live this life, and how I want to leave the world, behind when I'm gone, kind of a thing. That, you only have so much time on this earth, then it's, it's really important that you live with empathy, show up, do your best work, surround yourself with great people, and try to be a great person in return. No matter how challenging or difficult the times get. And I remind myself of these things because, I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes, and maybe I'm not always the most pleasant or happy-go-lucky person all the time. I try to be, but there's times where I'm sure people would chime in and be like, Gavin, trying to just kind of live my life that way, and, have a good support system. So I'm fortunate. I've got my lovely and amazing wife. She's, my great support person, and helps me, stay humbled and stay grounded, and always helps me recognize areas and like where I can strive to improve and try to be better. And, it's just, I think once you've set yourself up personally that way, and if you're always trying to improve and trying to, move forward, when new ideas or new opportunities present themselves, hopefully you're already ready for that opportunity or that next idea, and it's just a seamless transition into that next opportunity. So it's like, set your foundation, be prepared, be ready, and don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to take chances, and give it your best shot, even if you're going to fail miserably.
Gavin, this whole conversation was really awesome. I just wanted to say thank you for your time and for your thoughts. And I know now that this won't be the last one. We'll definitely have at least a second part to talk more about other questions and to dive in.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this Keeping IT Real episode, and thank you for listening. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. This podcast is all about celebrating and connecting professional heroes who work hard at IT every day. To continue the conversation and learn how VCOM can help you better buy, manage, and pay for your technology, visit us at vcomsolutions.com. Until next time.